Biosensors breaking barriers. To me, this was the word I heard so often this year about biometric sensing, and obviously could not ignore it for the show. So I want to welcome to the stage Dan Munro, a contributor at Forbes, who's going to lead this next session. And Dan has an awesome New Year's resolution. I love these, sorry, makes me laugh. He wants to buy another wearable this year. So big developments. Thank you. Let's welcome them to the stage. Thank you. Remember, sit in the middle, Dan.
Okay.
So thanks, Jill, and that is the good news, that I have a commitment to buy another wearable. The bad news is that there are now about 12 in the trash cans, so I tend to burn through them pretty quickly. Stanley is here with NeuroSky, and that represents a significant commitment to the biosensor community. And Deepak is here with Avery, but I'll let you describe the association because it's really Vancive Medical.
Yeah, it's just a division of Avery.
So Stanley, go ahead and give us a little background on NeuroSky and your participation there.
Okay, so NeuroSky is a biosensor company. We help our clients embed sensors everywhere, from wearables, these wristbands like I'm wearing, to actually non-wristband, going beyond wristband like the previous speaker said. We're going into many different places as weird as toilet seats and weight scales that, you know, when you go sit on the toilet, we can actually use our sensor to measure your health signals through your legs. And they're being integrated into automotive applications as well. We can detect drivers' fatigue level, or, you know, you don't want to have any kind of bad health problem happening to you during your drive. So those things are being worked on. So I would say it's going beyond not just wearable wristbands, but it's going into smart appliances, Internet of Things. So these biosensors that we built, we sense ECG and EEG and brainwave as well. They're being used for various purposes, but three categories I can see: entertainment, mobile health and fitness, and education. Those are the three areas we see.
Awesome. And Deepak.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me. Am I still allowed on the panel without any New Year resolutions?
Yeah,
oh,
absolutely.
I'm part of Avery Dennison. The medical division is called Vancive Medical Technologies in Chicago. Yes, that Avery Dennison. We are a global industrial company focused on many businesses, one of which is the medical division. About 4 years ago or so, we started getting into the space on digital health because we bring a lot of technologies as a corporation that can play very well in this space. We're still at the beginning stages of our journey into this digital health bit, but certainly for an industrial company to get into some cutting edge spaces is definitely something worthwhile to know.
Awesome. So I tend to work a lot in headlines, whether it's actually drafting them or writing them or reading them. So I thought what might be a good idea is to take some of the headlines that are recent and then ask these two their insights relative to what they're seeing specifically on the clinical side of sensor technology, because that's what the first headline was that that really made me stand up, was health wearables. Here's the headline: health wearables to save 1.3 million lives by 2020. 700,000 of those, so well over half, would be in hospital monitoring. Cardiovascular is about 230,000, and obesity is about 150,000. So the vast majority of what the anticipated market opportunity is for saving lives is significant between now, literally over the course of the next 5 years. Does this sort of coincide with what you're seeing relative to the excitement for more of the clinical side of biosensors?
Yeah, so I've definitely we have seen quite a few examples. It actually very FDA dependent as well, because the technology we have today go way beyond what FDA can allow us to do, in the consumer market. But some countries they have less regulations, so we can deploy with our partners there. But let me give you an example rather than just talk in general. We collaborate with Stanford Medical Center, and the head of the cardiovascular center, the director, his name is Dr. Fitzgerald. He was a speaker here a few years ago. He started giving our device to patients. So just last month, there are 2 patients, he saw that their daily signals were deviating from what they should be, and called them in and operated on them, so they prevented strokes and problems. So it does save lives. Those are live examples. But I think we're at the very early stages of this, because it's not been deployed to the masses yet, because FDA haven't seen this type of technology advancement. So we probably need to push a little more on how we deal with the regulators to make them understand that it's actually helping the human beings.
Same thing, regulation, is that a barrier in the sense?
Definitely among other barriers. I mean, that number is promising in one sense, but actually eating smart and exercising, et cetera, should come naturally to everybody. You should be saving a lot more lives over the next several years. But yeah, regulation is just one of the barriers. I mean, you've heard a couple of these things. There's so much technology coming at such a fast and furious pace. I mean, regulators are having a difficult time, payers are having a difficult time, providers are having a difficult time. There's a lot of operational challenges. It's like a kid in a candy store. Everybody's throwing everything at things, figuring out which one will work or not. So I think, you're seeing the promise. Slowly, you're seeing the promise. I think to Stanley's point, until you see providers and payers pull even more strongly, it'll be a slow adoption over the next several years. But it'll come. The turning point will come. Think of cell phones, for example. 20 years ago was bricks, and was it satellite phone or this or that, and now, everybody's got cool cell phones in their pocket. So you'll see something similar happen. Of course, healthcare is far more complex, so I'm making it far simpler than it is, but you will see some parallels there.
Yeah. So late in the year last year, Cisco took a spin on the idea of Internet of Things, and actually took it one step further, and their belief is simply that it's going to be the Internet of everything. And the sense is that we can literally put sensors now in almost anything. The toothbrushes, car seats, if you can think of it, you can put a sensor in it, and it can have a health impact or a health influence. Are there categories that we haven't thought of yet that maybe we should or could, that you're seeing in the sense of the Internet of everything?
I mentioned education earlier. That's one area. It may not be health related, but it's certainly, you can categorize it as mental health or mental improvement related area. We have seen clients, actually governments, trying to advance their educational methodologies, if you will. People are trying to download or stream educational contents from the cloud and going to the pad. But at the same time, they have an opportunity to extract the reaction, the biofeedback of the student or of the user, and synchronize that with the information. So you can understand if your content is too hard or too easy for this particular user, right? So in that sense, we're seeing that, and you can use that for improving mental health as well. So that's just one of the many examples I can give you, but yes, we're seeing that.
I don't know, the thought of requiring more passwords for me to remember itself scares me. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be Internet of everything for sure. I mean, healthcare obviously is getting the most attention, because that's the big 800-pound gorilla in the room. But like he said, education, environment, all kinds of applications there, screaming for things to be connected. But the more things you connect, the more challenges, the more operational challenges. How do you manage all of this? So it's going to be interesting.
So 3 quick headlines relative to the next question. U.S. Marine receives first prosthetic arm controlled by implantable sensors. That was late last year. Another headline, an artificial hand with real feelings. And then the third headline, investors commit $172 million for development of ingestible data devices. So are we shifting? Is this a kind of a nexus or a point in time where there is becoming more interest on the clinical aspects of wearables away from sort of the health and wellness and fitness? Or is that still the sort of primary focus for a lot of this?
I find that, this is only from our experience or my personal experience, I find that news headlines tend to be very, very bleeding edge because they find something extremely fun, but that's not where the bulk of the business is. Same thing for my business too. Our sensors are in everywhere, but the ones that find the headlines are not the best business. They're just the weirdest or the most advanced business.
Yes and no. I mean, in one sense, health and wellness is part of the same continuum, right?
Right.
But replacing a lot of the clinical legacy type equipment, that's not an overnight thing. Some of the legacy systems, they've had 30, 40 years of refining the model, the therapy, the delivery, the access. So getting to that level of care, it's gonna take a long time. It's gonna be a slow shift, like I said earlier. But health and wellness, I mean, industry gets in there because it's, in some cases, hopefully the FDA is not here, but in some cases it's not the regulated space. It's easier to get into direct-to-consumer offerings, et cetera. The clinical side is a little harder, because you have multiple stakeholders, not only the clinicians, the payers, the providers, et cetera. So I think you're seeing with ECG and a couple of these other areas, people are attacking some of the more, what used to be considered the traditional clinical angles. But as more sensors come in, better technology, better understanding of physiology, et cetera, you will see some of those more clinical spaces get attacked as well. But it's going to take time. I mean, that's one challenge with the space, right? People are expecting too much too fast.
Well, and I think we've already touched on it, so let's dive into it a little bit more as FDA regulation. 3 headlines here. Blood pressure apps may be dangerously wrong. Health apps more harmful than beneficial. Mobile apps earn D grade on average from customers. So regulation is dual-edged, right? Because regulation can help sort of separate the real from the unreal, and yet it becomes a barrier in the sense of the time to market and sort of dovetailing that. Regulation, friend or foe?
Depends if the FDA is in the audience. No, I think they have a primary responsibility to make sure all the devices are safe and effective. But at the same time, this space is growing at such a fast pace, they have to be adaptable. I think in prior sessions, at least prior events that I've been part of, they're generally very progressive in looking at these areas, some of the guidance, et cetera, they've issued, very progressive. So I think they do recognize, but they still have their fundamental mission to make sure that things are safe and effective. So in general, I think they can be a friend, I'd say.
I'm going to use an example again. For example, the step counting and calorie count devices are not FDA regulated. And many people we know, I don't know if it's many, but quite a few people I know, they tend to just want to go as high as they can, to go beyond their goals, without realizing maybe it's their body's being over-exercised. So in that sense, it's not more steps you take, the better it is. It's certainly not, because there is over-exercising and under-exercising. So in that sense, our sensor actually, when we work with these step counting producers, device makers, they are beginning to say, well, can I tell people what their goals are? They have to be between this and that. And that's where the biosensor comes in. But when you do that, if you become too detail-oriented, then you get the regulator to come in and interfere, even though you're trying to do a better job at telling people how much they should exercise and when they should start and when they should stop. So I do see it's a two-edged sword, because if you don't regulate it and people can just over-exercise until they're dehydrated or something, but if you try to give them these limitations and you're starting to provide kind of medically medical derivative of the medical data, it could be regulated, and in that sense, it's going backwards. It's making people go backwards. So yeah, it's a two-edged sword.
Your perspectives combined are really unique because Avery as a company has been around since 1935, and you're now celebrating your 10th year anniversary as a company. And for those of you who wonder about what happens sort of behind the scenes here at CES, it sounds like you actually cut 2 multi-million-dollar deals here in the course of literally yesterday and today. So congratulations.
Thank you.
That's maturity in the biosensor space that is unique. But here's the other question, and most of those other headlines that I quoted weren't ones that I wrote, but this one is one that I wrote. And I wanted to ask you about it because the US is on track this year to spend $10,000 per capita on healthcare. What are some of the key areas you see for impacting the per capita spending? How do we bring these sensors to bear in the most rapid way to help with cost? I mean, maybe it is health and wellness in the sense of getting consumers engaged and more aware, but maybe it is also the clinical side. Which do you see?
Well, when we added 30 million more subscribers to our healthcare system through the new law, we didn't add one single doctor or nurse or anything like that, and there's not any additional hospitals being built. I mean, they're probably building them, but there's no effort in increasing that side of the equation. So technology will definitely have to come in to help. Otherwise, last time I checked, I didn't hear any doctor saying, I'm going to work extra 10% because now we have extra 10% worth of headcounts. So we're going to have to use technology, use it smartly to reduce that face-to-face time or even eliminate, if it's unnecessary, to accommodate more people going on our insurance system or healthcare system. And at the same time, this technology can reduce the cost on a per headcount basis. So hopefully that the taxpayers and people who are paying for this healthcare can enjoy a lower cost. So that's my view.
Yeah. So Deepak, your company really works in the hospital space with hospital monitoring, or not so much?
Not so much yet, but that's
getting
one of
there. Yeah,
it's one of our visions. Yeah.
So the other aspect that is really intriguing about both your companies is that you both sell globally. And so there's a global footprint. And that also gives you a unique perspective in the sense of determining whether or not other countries are better opportunities initially for biosensor technologies, even if they're not the biggest market, which America always sort of winds up being. Are other countries sort of better proving grounds, testing grounds in the global stage? Or is that something that you see?
I'd agree in some cases. Different challenges. Some countries are progressive, but the cost hurdle is much bigger, right? Especially Asian markets, et cetera. But they're nimble, they're hungry, they want the latest, greatest technology. US, of course, is the biggest market. There's a lot of legacy things for you to navigate to, and better cost premiums you can handle. So, but any technology you bring, healthcare is such, it's riddled with inefficiencies everywhere. Yeah. So there's an opportunity for every company to put out products globally. But such unique aspects to each of these markets, you just have to be able to navigate and be smart about it. You know, a lot of the costs that you mentioned on the US side is inefficiencies in the healthcare system, the delivery, access, therapy, all aspects of it. It's the same in some of these other markets, but they're trying to address, in some Asian markets, they're trying to address access first, because access is so limited in some of their markets. It's not so much therapy, et cetera. It's access, hey, just get basic technologies out there for some of these people. So yes, it is definitely a global solution that you'd have to put out.
From our experience, there's definitely a very big difference, and many differences actually among the different countries, not even just continents. Let me give you a very simple example. The fitness trackers been quite popular and doing well in the US in the past several years. However, they're not selling well at all in some of the Asian countries, Japan or Korea. Why? When I was talking to one of our larger clients, he said, Stanley, let me show you, just go on the street. Do you see any people that are overly fat here? People really don't care about fitness. They walk too much already through the subways and all that. But they do care about the health of other type of health data and the health of their parents and their kids. So if you want to embed the fitness or health type of products into their daily life, you have to make them think about this is health, not fitness, because they really don't care about that. But they do care about fitness and health of their parents and their children. So you have to kind of wrap your product that way and market it that way. It's just different thinking, different culture.
So only a couple of minutes left, but wanted to toss out an idea relative to what you might like to see in the way of this year for a biosensor headline from any channel, whether it's a major news organization or whether it's a smaller publication maybe that's tech focused or maybe that's engineering focused or even medically focused. Is there a headline this year that either of you would like to see going into the balance of the year?
I think so. I think I'd like to see one concrete example where kind of the payer and the providers have come together and says, this is a solution that's going to be the standard of care going forward on a sustained basis. You hear a lot of pockets of, I'm trying this, or there's a pilot here or a pilot there, but at some point you got to step off of that and say, this is it. This is one of these digital health tools that's going to form the cornerstone of the solution. I'd like to see a headline like that. It's still maybe a couple of years away,
right?
So, but certainly I'd like to see that happen this year because it's going to help a lot of companies kind of finalize their direction and their plans, or else you'll be stuck with proving this technology and its viability in the coming years repeatedly over and over.
So we are having an effort with several large cell phone carrier service providers overseas as well as domestic. And almost always their partner, beyond using our devices and platform, their partner is a medical insurance or medical hospital system group. And they're providing services to their patients or their members so that they can start tracking their health and reduce their insurance fees if they're doing the right amount of exercise and so on and so forth. So I think that's the trend I'm seeing, but I'm not sure we're going to see a headline because this is a gradual progression. Like Deepak said earlier, things are changing, but it won't be a step function. So it'll be probably multiple headlines to make up one big headline like that.
Any questions from the audience? It looks like we have just under 2 minutes. So I've got one more in the sense of interoperability. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see. Yeah.
I think I can't tell with the lights either.
One piece that doesn't seem to be included here is when you're moving towards diagnostics, is where you see the liability coming. Sorry. I was wondering where you felt the liability holding on grounds that if you're actually managing diagnostics within platforms to go straight to the consumer, then you potentially have a huge amount of liability, and it's exactly where you've got self-driving cars. Where does that sit?
Liability, big issue.
So I mentioned earlier, we do deal with FDAs and around the world, and we do have to take that responsibility of providing the data. And we have to determine and work with them to determine what kind of data you should have at least this many subject data before you can say it's accurate.
Well, that's your efficacy. It's the point at which some of your testing when you are running this on 100,000 people, and it goes and flags up rather than your initial test for the FDA, your summatives, and all this sort of pieces, when you get your 1 in 100,000, 1 in a million, 1 in 10 million, where you drop one bit of data and it potentially causes someone to do something horrendous, it may be that it's a lot less likely to cause a problem than actually going to the doctor or someone who's got less time and is stressed over it. But obviously, it doesn't matter that it's better. It's still got that. It's still got that liability. It's still either you or the FDA or a third-party regulator. Someone's got that, and someone's going to get sued.
Yeah, I mean, it's no different from how it was 30 years ago. People, once they understand technologies in healthcare and what it does, the risk profile, they'll develop an understanding of that. And it's part of the operational hurdle I was mentioning earlier. There's liability, there's data security issues, there's privacy issues. All these things, this technology is still early. You know, all these things, kind of grown-up problems in healthcare will have to get addressed. But it has been addressed in prior years in other areas. So it'll happen. It'll just take time.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a great
Thanks,
panel, and I appreciate the opportunity to ask some questions anyway, and at least get some ideas on headlines.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Let's give them a round of applause.